Hello, freaks, geeks, degenerates, basement dwellers, weird people online, and you funky people in general. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Skruffytalez. And in this video, we are gonna take a look at some very interesting statements made by Syrsky and Zelensky concerning Pokrovsk. Really interesting. But we're also gonna take a look at some news that Ukraine will receive some more combat boat 90 very effective assault craft designed to storm beaches and islands and what have you. Really interesting. But so first off, we're going to take a look at the combat boat 90 and then the Syrsky statements. And oh boy, they will piss off the Vatniks. This is gonna be glorious. The comment section. I'm so looking forward to it. So Syrsky and Zelensky has made some statements regarding Pokrovsk. We're gonna take a closer look at that. Really, really interesting. And after that, we're gonna jump on down and take a look at the Pokrovsk map. Lots of things happening elsewhere along the front line. Obviously, at Lyman, Russia has made some gains, absolutely, and stuff like that. But we're going to focus on Pokrovsk here because of Syrsky's statements and some Ukrainian successes in the area in general. So let's get on with the video. Right, so first off, real quick here, Norway is committed to providing Ukraine with an unknown number of combat boat 90 fast attack craft. This is a combat boat 90. Ukraine currently has 38, of which 32 are from Sweden. This is a Swedish vessel to begin with. And the Netherlands provided 3, and it was a civilian effort that purchased the last 3, I think. So 38 in total. We're now going to add in Norwegian boats to that number. So they are going to have an impressive amphibious force, Ukraine, when all of this is over. And this is a really incredible craft designed to assault any type of shoreline, any type of island, wherever land meets water. This boat is designed to drive straight up to land and allow Marines, 18 in total per boat, to jump out and assault, storm those beaches, those islands, whatever. And it packs quite a punch. You can have 50 cals on it, miniguns, you can have depth charges, mines, you can have anti-ship missiles, anti-air missiles, you can even have torpedoes on this thing. And it's fast as hell, like you wouldn't believe, and it just skims the surface of the water, so it can cross really extremely shallow areas where you normally would hit, shallows just beneath the water. It's an incredible assault craft. Some say the best amphibious assault craft in the world, and Ukraine will now have well beyond 40 of them in their service, currently used to effectively gun down drones over the Black Sea, but also deploy special forces onto occupied territory in Kherson Oblast. And well, Ukraine just keeps getting more and more of these. Very interesting. And Sweden will also provide Ukraine with mortar vessels, transport cargo vessels that have been redesigned to carry 120mm mortars to assist in the Swedish amphibious corps. Those vessels are intended to assist these guys in assaulting beaches and islands and giving the Marines some heavy-duty indirect fire support with those mortar vessels. And Ukraine will receive a couple of those from Sweden as well. So it's all adding up to interesting stuff. I don't know, maybe even a revival of Operation Chefsmell. You never know. And now on to some statements that is really gonna piss off the Vatniks. The comments after this will be gold. You know how easily offended they are. So why don't we bring in Zelensky and Syrsky to annoy the hell out of the Vatniks. They are gonna go apeshit loco down in the comment section. This is gonna be glorious. So Syrsky has come out swinging, saying the claims of Russian propaganda about the blockade of Ukrainian troops in Pokrovsk or Kupiansk do not correspond to reality. At the same time, in Pokrovsk, enemy infantry avoiding clashes, this is the same statement, avoiding clashes, accumulate in urban areas, changes its location, so the primary task is to detect and destroy it. So, according to Syrsky, yes, there is an issue with these roughly 200 Russians within Pokrovsk, but they're sneaking around and they're not really tying up as many Ukrainian forces within the city as the Russians would have you believe. So the Ukrainians are conducting search and destroy operations to try and find them and engage them. We're going to see it in a map in a while that there is quite a lot of drone strikes within Pokrovsk. But the Ukrainian angle here, Syrsky's angle, is that it is not as big of a problem as the Russians would have you believe. It's still a problem, obviously, but not on the scale and level that the Russians make it out to be. And to back all of this up, we got Zelensky himself saying in whatever this is, they have committed such forces to Pokrovsk that Ukraine cannot allocate as many to one direction. 1 to 8 people, so 8 Russians for every 1 Ukrainian. Seems about right. When you're going into a cityscape, though, you should have at least 10 to 1 advantage. With drones, you definitely need more than that. So 8 to 1 seems actually a bit low when we're talking Pokrovsk itself. This might be the operational area, though, 8 to 1, and then you can accumulate. So you have 10, 15 to 1 advantage within Pokrovsk and Mirnoran, maybe. Might be the case. Just imagine how many forces that Russians have there. But at the same time, they have not achieved the planned result. They show maps with captured Pokrovsk, but this is just a lie, Zelensky said. You can tell how you can just see the comment section in front of you, can't you? The Botniks are gonna go apeshit. Anyway, Zelensky emphasized that holding Pokrovsk is of strategic importance as the Kremlin seeks to use the city as a political argument to impose on the world the idea of the supposedly inevitable retreat of Ukraine from the east. The fact that we hold Pokrovsk and they constantly, Ukraine has held Pokrovsk for 10 to 12 months. Russia's been at Pokrovsk for 10 to 12 months. And only now have they begun to sneak in a handful of troops. Well, if 200 soldiers is a handful, but you get the point. And they constantly change their campaign plans, proves to the world that they are lying and that it is worth continuing to help Ukraine. The president also reported that Ukrainian forces captured 2,200 Russian soldiers in just the first 6 months of 2025. So the first 6 months, I thought it was the nearest 6 months. So that is the entire East. Dobropilia Pokrovsk brought 2,200 Russian prisoners. So Dobropilia Pokrovsk, the Pokrovsk direction, this is before the Bonniers operation. Interesting. I thought this referred to the Bonnier operation, but this is before the Bonniers happened in August, right? Huh. How about that? So I thought this was during the Bonnier operations when they pushed into Kucherov and what have you. So they started, piling up the POWs. But this is before the Bonniers. Huh, interesting. I wonder what the total number will be for Pokrovsk and Dobropilia in that case. Interesting. Right, so anyway, all things combined, you can see that the Ukrainians have a very different viewpoint on how things are progressing in Pokrovsk. So therefore, we will now head on over to Pokrovsk. So we're starting off with Mayakovsk 73 here. Russia's launching massive amounts of armored assaults all over the place up around Shakova. You can see drone strikes within Volodymyrivka. So they're gaining ground because of it. I think it's fair to say that they have Volodymyrivka at this point, even if it's neutral here in the gray zone here. But overall, I think their other mappers are indicating that Russia is within here, as evident by Ukrainian drone strikes in Volodymyrivka. This is an older one. No, this is from the 28th, so just a couple of days old. But they keep doing these massive armored pushes towards Shakova, and it kind of feels desperate. It is out of desperation that they try to reach these 4 bridges in the Shakov area and get another one north at Sofika that they have been unable to push up to. Ukraine has pushed them back, in fact. And they can't utilize the bridge at Pankivka. It's been blown to hell and come. So they're just desperately trying to reach these bridges. And I can only imagine that it's either to save the Russians trapped here in the Shakova pocket, or perhaps more realistically, since Russians are Russians, they are just desperately trying to secure Shakova and the bridges so that they can push troops over to continue operations north of Pokrovsk, because that is what they must do to break the deadlock here in the Shakova operational area. But as we can tell, it's having less than stellar success, these large mechanized assaults. Tremendous casualty figures, gaining only a few hundred meters here and there. We can also see here more success for the Ukrainians. They're still pushing the Russians east in the Shakova pocket, closing it down even further. I mean, you can see here recent gains by Ukraine. The Shakova pocket is doomed. These mechanized assaults will more than likely not be able to reach these Russians, and they have basically three choices. Surrender, stand and fight, and most likely become killed in action, or push through. The third option is to push through Shakov, as we're seeing here, trying to reach this bridge more than likely in order to escape and link up with the friendly forces. But these guys, they're in a tough position, and the Ukrainians are grinding them down gradually. And now to Shakova itself. Some gains just outside of town, but they haven't really pushed up to the railway here yet, the Russians. But here you can see spread out drone strikes all over the place. You have some confirmed Russian presence here and there. Russian soldiers on the move. Russians ambushing Ukrainians. And these are drone strikes against Russian positions. And here you have Russian POWs being taken within the high-rise belt. And like Zelensky and Pokrovsk, Zelensky and Syrsky says, yes, we have these 200 Russians. They are operating. They're moving around. They are conducting sporadic ambushes, which is annoying, which is troublesome, because they can take out the patrol. They can take out the logistics truck, stuff like that. If they find a Ukrainian hideout, they can call in artillery. So they are a real issue here. But according to Zelensky and Syrsky, Ukraine is still very much in control of Pokrovsk. I mean, confirmed Russian presence is still down here. So all of this is gray area, and then you have confirmed Russian activity in the south. And Ukraine can still move in troops and whatever. It might be for morale issues purposes that they're saying that they can sneak past the drones. That might be it. I'm not going to downplay the Russian drone activity here, because I do believe it is a real issue. Over in Myrnorod, Russia has slowly gained a foothold in the northeast, and they have taken Balahan by more than likely. But they're doing this more by traditional means, frontal assaults for some reason, not really doing these infiltration tactics. Interesting why they're doing that. But I think what they're doing here, Russians, is applying a lot of pressure on Myrnorod, forces Ukraine to, allocate resources away from Pokrovsk. So they're spreading Ukrainian resources thin. And also, it means you have to move resources over to Myrnorod as well as Pokrovsk, so you expose Ukrainian logistical routes, and more people will be doing logistical runs, and that means there are more targets for Russian drones, right? So you kind of force the Ukrainians out of hiding, as it were, and then you can engage them trying to sneak into Myrnorod and trying to sneak into Pokrovsk. So more targets for Russian drones if you force Ukraine to push out more logistics to both Myrnorod and Pokrovsk. At the same time, Ukraine has less resources to focus on Pokrovsk if they also have to defend Myrnorod, right? I think that makes sense, doesn't it? So I think that explains these larger assaults on Myrnorod that will try and drain Ukraine of resources and expose more Ukrainians to Russian drones behind the front line. Anything else? We will return to Rudinsky and Fedorivka on my map. So we're going to jump over to my map. My map on the situation. Let's zoom in here. We can see here how the Russians are spreading out. I mean, this is not where they are in control or anything. This is where they have been moving around, essentially. So this doesn't mean that Russia is dead set in control. This is area where their infiltration units, their saturation units, are operating and moving around, sneaking around, trying to deny Ukraine a chance to move logistics freely from Hrishne into Pokrovsk. We said this would happen. It was more than likely that they were going to push up here. Now they have. So if Ukraine wants to move through here, it is dangerous as hell. So they can now move through here, the northern parts of town. But you see the Russians, they want to push up here and come in here and threaten Ukrainians moving through this area as well. And the same thing coming up here and coming into Ripi. I mean, that means they can keep an eye on logistics and Ukrainian troops coming in through here, the northeast, and now you can ambush them trying to push through to the front lines. So that is what the Russians are doing, but we have to remember they're not in control of the this area up here. They are in control of the southern parts, the parks and what have you. And on top of that, we have evidence that Russia has broken into the high-rise belt here in this corner. A likely position, they had it outflanked. They could push in from multiple angles, get a presence in a building on the exterior, and then work their way in. So this area here is apparently under Russian control, and this sort of effectively divides the high-rise belt in half. And now Russia can push troops through here into rest of town, moving through the high-rise belt, which is of actual importance for the Russians. Now they can move larger infantry formations, not just 2 or 3 guys at a time, through here into this area, or begin planning assaults into the south or northern end of the high-rise belt, which we've seen evidence of. Here is where Ukraine has taken POWs, and this part of the high-rise belt. So Russia might be trying to come down here to expand this breach of the high-rise belt to gain a better foothold, and so that they can push more troops through the high-rises into this area and gain actual control of the city north of this highway here, the main street, the E50. It's also a good position if we zoom in. Where was it? Here. This looks like you have where you can actually utilize walkways to move in and beneath or get across the main street here. So you can actually move. I'm thinking that they can actually move in cover across this wide open space that a street is by following these paths that are most likely going to tunnels and what have you beneath the main street and the highway here. So that means if they can't control this area, they can then sneak in under the main street and reach these buildings on the far side. Anything else to note? I don't think so. Russia is pushing into Mirnorad. We see them moving through Balhan into this part of town. And here is where they're strongly pushing in the northeast, securing a presence. They are in the city. I think that much is safe to say. And what else? Rodinsky, Ukraine made a push through here. Successful or not? Not sure, but just highlighting that there was a Ukrainian push straight through town to the edges here in the east. So Russian forces are divided if this was successful. Who knows? In a northern and southern part, they can still move in north and south of this huge field, though. But the Ukrainians are pushing back in Rodinsky, even though pro-Russians will say that all of Rodinsky is under Russian control, which is, of course, bullshit. We're seeing Ukrainians assaulting within Rodinsky. What my hope is, though, that Ukraine will build up forces up here in Satushok, Fedorivka, and come down this way because you can see here you have dams and lakes down here, and this is also a lake or a dam, and that, you can clearly see here, Russia doesn't have all that many options in reaching Rudynsky in this particular area. So if Ukraine can come down here and start threatening Russian positions here, and especially if they come down here between these two lakes or slash dams, this is marshes, so it's this road and here, right? Then the lakes and the marshes, if they can come down here, Russia has very few options in reaching Rudynsky. The troops up here will almost be isolated. You can still come in from the south, but open ground, then you're, excellent targets for Ukrainian drones. So these guys will almost be split and divided by this wide open field, I feel. And of course, if Russia wants to continue operations in Rudynsky, then they have to follow this narrow pathway with very little cover before they reach the woods and Cherny-Lyman. So I'm hoping we will see a Ukrainian push down here towards these two dams, these two lakes, and that will have a huge effect on Rudynsky, allowing Ukraine to secure Rudynsky once again, and might even prevent Russia from continuing the push into Myrnorod in the same area. You can see here it's just north of where Russia is pushing into Myrnorod. So if Ukraine can push down here, this will probably force Russia to allocate a lot of troops in Rudynsky and involved in Rudynsky and Myrnorod to defending the north, slowing down their progress in Rudynsky and Myrnorod as a consequence, right? So that's my hope, a Ukrainian push down here this way towards these two dams to disrupt Russian operations in Rudynsky and the north of Myrnorod. We'll see if anything comes of it. And of course, the Shakova pocket getting strangled. This is essentially what Russia is in control of at the moment. Ukraine has pushed in here in the east, and the Russians have some positions here along this valley, and they're up on the northern end of the hill in this valley. You can see this is the top of the huge hill, nothing but farmland. No Russians are hiding up here. They are hiding in these tree lines and in this valley, and they have a presence in western parts of Shakov as well. So this is what's left of the Bunny Ears operation. The Russian push all the way up to Zloty Kolodyash has now been pushed back and reduced to this tiny pocket here. The Kucherov Yar pocket has been wiped out, taken prisoner. Sorry, and the Shakova pocket has been reduced to this tiny area over here. And the Ukrainians are closing in to mop up any remaining Russians still active up here. And Volodymyrivka is under Russian control on my map. I think that is a fair assessment. That's it in broad strokes, I think. But yes, the important and interesting part is that Zelensky and Syrsky have a very different view on the situation in Pokrovsk compared to what we're being told by a lot of Russian pro-Russian sources. And so it's tough going with the logistics, absolutely. But according to Zelensky and Syrsky, the infiltration units are not as devastating as the Russians would have you believe, even though they're still a huge problem, obviously. But yeah, that's it. Time to end the video. And we're gonna have to wait for the Vatnik comments. It's gonna be glorious. So yeah, I'm gonna finish this off quick. So this is the end. So I'm excited about the Vatnik comments. So as always, go po marsh, Ukraine. Give them hell.